Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Welcome to MLG Spring Arena. It's time to get more games going. I'm DJ Wheat.
And I'm Grubby. And we've got here for you Heart versus Parting in the round robin first day of MLG. We're glad you're with us. We're glad you purchased your pass for this Spring Arena 1. And we're very glad to bring you lots of awesome games tonight, tomorrow, and the day after.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited for this one. Of course, Parting is one of these players that, our toasts have been talking about him a lot. He's had some great results as of late. Now, Heart, though, in terms of MLG history, has some really, really interesting history because of how well he did at the Winter Championships. A lot of people were surprised by him, but then there was also a lot of people that said, you know what? That's just kind of Heart style. People haven't figured it out yet, but you know what? Once they figure it out, he's going to be an easy guy to beat. So for me, I just want to keep an eye on him throughout this competition to see if all those people were right or if, in fact, he really does have all the talent, all the potential to be here amongst these 8. I mean, he made it here for a reason. It's really hard to deny that.
Yeah, very good point. And we can also see that the top 8 at this event is almost exactly the same as the top 8 at another MLG at the Winter Arena. And only Heart is the one who's subbed in for someone else. So, indeed, it's very interesting to see whether he will actually evolve himself, whether he has evolved himself, whether he has developed beyond what people expect from him. And that's oh so important. When you are at the top, when you are visiting multiple major events, you need to show yourself from many different sides. Has he got what it takes? Can he beat a somewhat shaky-looking Parting thus far?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say because his opponents have been so great, and we are now in the game. Our first map's going to be Entomb Valley. We'll talk a little bit more about these two players in just a moment. Let's first introduce our players here in the northeast position on Entomb Valley as the Red Terran. He did great at the last MLG Winter Championship and looking to solidify his space here at the Spring Arena. It is Complexity Heart. And in the southeast position, as the blue Protoss, Grubby, I think you made a great point. He has not played up to the potential that I think a lot of people expect him to play at, but you also got to consider we got the 8 best players here, right, in the world. So give it up. It's the blue Protoss player, Startail Parting.
And of course, the first big question will be, will Parting be able to keep his probe alive against Heart?
Yeah.
So far, 66% fail rate.
Yeah.
Will he be able to do that? And I don't think we're going to see another Robo all-in. Of course, Heart will have had a chance to maybe get some information about what Parting did in the first games. Maybe not. He could have been busy with something else, but in any event, it would be risky to keep using the same build order over and over and over. So
right.
I don't think we're going to see that. And once again, this is Entombed Valley. It would not be ideal to perform that build here. So we're just going to have to wait and see what they diverge into.
Yep, and over on the analyst desk, we've got Axelab and QXC going to be joining us in between the games to give their opinion on what we see here. And already things are starting off here in a much different way than we've seen. At least Parting have to deal with some of the Terrans. Heart is going to have a completely different set of build openings than MKP is. So it's really hard to say, let's compare these two games on paper and, and see how it should work out. But right now we're seeing already Heart go with, a pretty different opening. MKP lately wanting to go with those fast CCs, and in this particular situation, seeing that he's not going to get blocked in here, I think he's going to save that probe this time.
Yeah, nice job there by Parting. First success has been written down in his book, and for Heart, yeah, it's too easy to say like, okay, Marine King beat him in this certain way. Can I do the same? You can't actually just switch up your style like that. You need to be very true to what you practiced. And we see actually Heart has gone for a reactor on his barracks and a second refinery, making no attempts at all whatsoever thus far to hide anything of what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely, none at all. And actually going to throw down a factory there, and there it does go down. So Heart from Complexity, again, surprised a lot of people with his exemplary play at the MLG Winter Championship. Now this probe getting stuck inside. 2 gases up now for Heart, and this Marine just getting ready to hunt down this probe and take him out. The probe gets, the probe actually, nope, not going to get out of there, as we also have a block at the front, but the factory is seen, and he's got to expect that that's coming anyway.
So funny thing there, probe does again die, but let's say he got a lot more mileage out of that little guy. He saw the second refinery, saw the reactor, saw the factory, so he has a very good read on what Hart is doing. And looky here, Parting actually has decided to throw up a robotics facility and a second gateway. This is not the build that leads itself into a Colossus all-in. You wouldn't even be wanting to do this. He has ascertained that Hart will not be going for a fast command center and is probably going to what appears to look like a 1-1-1.
Yeah, I mean, we see that the starport's going down. We've got the tech lab immediately over on the factory. The Marine count looks to be just right around there. And, you know, I think still based off of what Parting's seen, can he predict that? You know, you tell me, Grubby, if you go in, you're scouting things out, you do see both gases, you see the factory going down. Do you think, are you telling yourself maybe this is a 1-1-1?
Yeah, I feel like you could almost be completely sure. Based on what he has seen, the factory and the reactor barracks, the only other thing that could happen is something like reactor Hellions. And the only reason you might want to do that is when you put the Protoss opponent on a Nexus first, like very high probe count, very low army count. But he already scouted Parting's base and knew it was not, in fact, a quick Nexus.
And these Marines going to front forward. He has 3 sentries and the 1 stalker at the front. They're going to go ahead and target that. There's some force fields to trap the Marines, but he doesn't have a 5th to actually trap them inside there, so the damage he does is limited. That was actually quite a bit of energy used there, but he did deflect the attack, so I guess it wasn't completely a loss.
Well, it is a loss in some sense. It was almost a geniusly placed force fields, but with that little hole, it just became a little bit disastrous. That energy loss will make itself felt a little bit more across this game. But let's just talk a little bit about Parting's opening. I think he could almost, without a fault, accurately gauge the opening that Hart is doing. The 1-1-1, actually it's a 3-1-1. It's 3 barracks, a tank, tank producing structure, the factory, and the starport. So the 2-gate robotics facility into a slow expansion is absolutely the right way to go. And then he added 2 more gates, looking very, very solid there for Parting. Does already have 2 observers out, more or less in place, will maybe only lose 1 sentry and then drive off this Cloak Banshee already. So Parting really looking stable here. We saw him actually taking a 3rd and a 4th gas earlier on against the Marine King when the Marine King did the all-in on Metropolis. So that was too ambitious. We don't see him doing that now. He's cutting probes. He's not making too quick 3rd and 4th gas. So I feel like he's totally on to what Hart is doing, and Hart is playing true to his reputation.
Now, we also saw this Raven come into play here from Hart. He chose to get the Raven after that first Banshee, and the second Banshee is on the way. A lot of different utility, and hold on, in the middle of the map, we do have these Marines that have really been split off from the rest of the group, and this is going to be a great victory here for Parting, as he does give chase just a little bit, but completely separating this army away from everything else that he's got. There is going to be a big follow-up. I think the Parting's got to be careful. He's going to need everything that he's got here, especially these stalkers, to deal with any sort of anti-air, but he's chasing down every single one of those Marines. I think Hart's doing the right thing here. He can respond by trapping these stalkers and then go in, and even though he may have lost the Marines, he puts his opponent down 3 units that he really needs to defend this.
Yeah, but actually I think those 2 stalkers will get out. No, they won't. They actually stopped. We're on attack move. Good thing for Parting is that back when he put some pressure on the front base of the Terran, he actually threw down a missile turret, an auto turret, so the Raven further away from the point defense zone than he might have liked. And Parting, he's pretty much in no doubt at all about what's going to happen. He's actually feeling comfortable to all the way move across the map, definitely poised to use those sentries with deadly effect, trying to cut the army in half. And the fact that Hart is running away from the army which has been created off of 2 base, whereas Hart is only on 1, can only spell disaster for Hart.
Yeah, I mean, what looked to be what was going to put him into good position is actually now turning out to be a big problem for him, and Parting is putting more distance between his own base and his and these units that he's got on the field. He's going to be met up by a few more Banshees. There's also a group of Marines and another tank over here, and now when this attack does come, he will have siege available. So the question is going to be, is he going to stop here and just posture up at the main, or is he going to try to push in while these units make a return back to the base? It looks like Parting might be safe here, but he's going to cut off a few of these units, and he catches the Immortals. There's the force fields coming out, but again, not able to complete a wall there, and now these Immortals are possibly going to get targeted down.
Yeah, one Immortal almost down, doesn't quite die. He did lose all of his sentries. Will not be warping in any more sentries, as just one force field or not isn't really going to help you out. He's just wants to warp in as many Immortals and Stalkers as possible, and actually is looking pretty good for Parting, but Siege has finished. We see 4 Siege tanks slowly leapfrogging into place. There will be no more point defense drones, and Parting will move out now, taking down 1 tank and then the next. Lots of Marines, but they're being taken down. All the tanks are getting taken down. There's just too many Immortals here for Parting. He's taking down all the tanks. Marines and Cloak Banshees still alive, took down all the Immortals, and actually Parting just got reduced to only Stalkers. He needs to keep that Observer alive, or he will not be able to deal with the Cloak Banshees.
Yeah, that would not be good either. And the Ravens getting closer. The Observer does fall down, and that means the Cloak Banshees, although they don't have a ton of energy left, are going to be very, very deadly. We see a lot of these probes going down. Parting actually attacking the neutral supply depot, just allowing Hart to go ahead and run over the top of him. And he is holding on as much as he possibly can, but he's already lost so much. The supply, 66 for Hart and 40 for Parting. Parting puts his Stalkers in the back, but he's certainly going to lose this Nexus. Here comes the other Observer, but with the Siege tank here, what comes down from the main? The first Colossus is out. Is it going to be enough?
The Colossus are obviously great against Marines, against Banshee tank, not so much. And without the backup of an Immortal, it is very difficult to engage with those tanks. Might I say how completely unexpected it is that Hart was actually able to take down this Nexus, take down all those probes, and now looking to be in a winning position. I really feel like the lack of sentries, the ones he lost right there in the middle, hurt him so much. I mean, you want to have that Guardian Shield in the big fight, he doesn't, and now Marines move in, killing more Stalkers, and Parting moving down the hill with his Colossus, taking down the first tank. There's one more tank, but it's not in siege mode. Lots of Marines dying to the Colossus now.
And here the Marines going to move forward, just try to pick off the remaining health on these Stalkers. The Colossus is about to fall, but the Banshee has gone down, which means that there is no more vision up onto the cliffs here for Hart, and he's just going to take out what he can. Here we go, another Banshee coming into play, and if he just pot shot the Colossus a couple times, he's going to be in good shape, but there's an Observer there. But up come the Marines. Again, no sentries to stop these guys, and he's trying to get rid of that Colossus, but the Stalker's just doing a great job defending him.
Wow.
I mean, he's still only on 1 base right now, but he still looks to be in a pretty sizably good lead here over his opponent. The question is do you think that Parting can actually recover from this?
Well, there was some great micro with Parting. He used that Colossus to full effect, trying not to lose it to tanks and taking down as many Marines as possible. Finally, the Colossus goes down, and I feel like that was the nail in the coffin for Parting. Hart now took down the Colossus, the major threat to his Marines, and now he will almost surely have permanent high ground vision. And with those tanks down there, it just becomes such a hard position to engage in for Parting.
Yeah, I mean, we have about 4 Marines and 1 tank moving down the field at about, you know, every about half a minute or so. So, I mean, he's continuing to reinforce this as we see more and more Marines. The tanks are getting closer and closer to the top of that ramp. So Zealots are going to come out, and they're immediately focus fire down. But as you can see, these Stalkers will quickly fall. And as the Marine numbers continue to climb, there's just not enough units that are able to be warped in here to be able to stop this. We do have another Banshee coming into play. There we see the Observer sniped off, which again just puts Hart in a great position.
The only saving grace for Parting here is that Hart is almost mined out. He's only mining off of 4 mineral patches at this moment. If Parting can somehow miraculously pull through and stabilize here, somehow hold, maybe snipe down the Banshee and keep those tanks away from him, then there is a small chance, but it's just so difficult for him now, making a last-ditch effort, moving in with all the probes, spreading out his Stalkers to reduce as splash damage as much as possible. He's trying to kill the Banshee here. One Banshee down, second Banshee going down. Observer spots it, but finally all the Stalkers fall, and GG by Parting. Hard takes the first game.
And that style is exactly the style that people said, you know, eventually people are going to figure Hart out.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be an issue. But as we saw, I mean, some good decisions made by him. There's definitely some unique things happening there in the middle of the game as the Army did the whole Benny Hill theme around the map and just kind of like ran to, you know, for whatever reason. But I think you're right. When the sentries went down, that was a key point. Let's shoot on over to Axlav and QSC. Guys, what do you think of that last match?
I actually kind of agree with you that a lot of people are talking about hard style figured out, and especially that one-on-one build. It's really, as long as the Protoss defends the harass, it's up to them to lose the game. Parting, you know, he defended the harass. The early harass from the Banshee is fine. He took no damage. He was in commanding position. There's a couple of questionable decisions he made. One was he stayed too long out in the middle of the map, risked those sentries, lost them. The other thing I actually think that definitely cost him the game was he built his third assimilator, his fourth assimilator. He built a robo support bay. If all that resources was in Zealots and sentries, that attack would have looked totally different in the first engagement. In addition to the 4 Immortals, he could have had like 6 Zealots, 3 more sentries, and Hart's army would have been demolished.
One thing that I think was really interesting, and I feel like this has kind of been a theme in Parting's games that we've seen so far, is he's not really using the information that he's getting as well as he could have. Around the 4-minute mark, Probe gets into the base. It sees a reactor. It sees a factory. It sees a second gas. He knew it was coming, but his reaction to it didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, he did cut probes. He did make a ton of Immortals. He made a lot of units. He had the Observers. He was in position for the Cloak Banshees. But then that whole battle in the middle, and it was okay when he was chasing the units around. It was okay when he killed those Marines in the bottom left-hand corner. But then he gets caught out of position because he doesn't expect Hart to be so aggressive, loses a couple of sentries. Sentries, I mean, as long as you have 1 or 2 for Guardian Shield, I don't think they're that important in holding off that push. But the Immortals took so much damage. One of them almost died. Then he didn't have time to recharge the shields. And then that whole battle at the base of his ramp where you saw, yeah, it's great when you can snipe tanks, but it's not great when your Immortals have to run through Marines to do it. Yeah. And Parting was just not careful with conserving his immortal account. He basically threw the Immortals away, tried to run through Marines to kill as many tanks as he could, but the tanks aren't really that scary when you have 4 Immortals. The tanks tend to hit the Immortals. The Immortals aren't taking that much damage. If they get too close, you snipe them, but you back off. You got to keep building more units. Hart doesn't quite have the ability to deal with a big Protoss army with just Marine, Tank, Banshee, and Parting just wasn't conserving his units as well as he needed to. He needed to buy himself a little bit more time.
All right, I mean, some great thoughts, some great perspectives there from both of you guys, and we are going to be moving on to our second game, which is on Metropolis, and we can go ahead, and it looks like the game is actually about to begin. So will Hart have another kind of aggressive build up his sleeve to take to Parting's base on this map? I don't know, but one thing is certain, Grubby, is that I am sure that Parting fans around the world are kind of, you know, going, WTF is going on? Like, this guy should not